Tonight, Donald Trump continues to surge in the polls.
Oh, we love you, Mr. Trump. They love me.
Can the rest of the GOP field keep pace? 2016 presidential candidate Senator Marco Rubio is here with reaction.
The whole thing I had with the Spanish journalist, if you call him a journalist.
Then Trump takes a shot at Jorge Ramos on the campaign trail.
I never erupted. He erupted.
Laura Ingraham and Geraldo Rivera are here with reaction.
I know people have raised questions about my email use as Secretary of State.
Plus, Hillary Clinton should be worried. We're going to tell you the very harsh words that voters were using to describe her. And Democrats pounce on the Virginia shooting tragedy to push for more gun control.
We have got to do something about gun violence in America.
Hannity starts right here, right now.
Welcome to Hannity Tonight. A new poll shows that Donald Trump continues to dominate the Republican field. Plus, it also reveals that if Vice President Joe Biden, crazy Uncle Joe, decides to enter the 2016 race, Hillary Clinton's candidacy could be in huge trouble. Standing by at the Hannity Big Board tonight with a full report, Fox and Friends First co-host Ainsley Earhart. Not good news for Hillary.
Yeah, this is true, Sean. Let's take a look at these polls. It's another impressive showing for Donald Trump in the latest Quinnipiac University national poll. The billionaire businessman leads with 28%. He is up 8 percentage points from just last month. Dr. Ben Carson is the only other candidate who is registering in those double digits with 12%. Governor Jeb Bush, Senator Ted Cruz, and Senator Marco Rubio each follow with 7%. The governor, Scott Walker, checks in with 6%. Now, Sean, the same poll could also give Vice President Joe Biden yet another reason to challenge Hillary Clinton for the Democratic nomination. Biden is actually better liked by Democratic voters than Clinton is. 83% of those voters have a favorability rating of the vice president. 6% view him unfavorably. And when it comes to Hillary Clinton, 76% said that they view the former Secretary of State favorably, and 11% have an unfavorable view. So, Sean, we'll have to see if strong support like this factors into Biden's decision. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it, and we, of course, will let you know. You think he's getting in, right?
I don't think there's any doubt. I think he's being pushed by Obama, and we're going to get to that later. Thanks, Ainsley.
You're welcome. All
right, joining me now with reaction, 2016 Republican presidential candidate Senator Marco Rubio is with us. Senator, there's some good news in here. Not only are you tied for third in the poll, they had matchups, Biden versus Trump, Bush, and you. You did the best. Same thing, you actually were the only one to beat Bernie Sanders of the other two candidates. So in matchups, you do really well, but not as well in the general poll. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. It really doesn't matter at this stage. I mean, other than the fact that it's determining who gets into the debates. The bottom line is this is a campaign. It's August or September, October, November, December, January. 5 full months lie ahead, in which, I mean, think about 5 months ago and what those polls said. So the important thing is for someone like me who's running for president is to go around the country and tell people what it is I stand for, what I will do if they give me the chance to serve in the highest office in the land. And then ultimately our voters get to decide, and they do so in individual states, of course, starting in Iowa. That's what I'm going to focus on. I think that's what really matters, and ultimately that's what's going to decide this race, and I'm excited about the chance to be a part of it.
Hillary Clinton was viewed by 61% of voters, the highest number ever, as being dishonest and untrustworthy. When the poll was asking what word first comes to mind when you think of Hillary Clinton, the first three were liar, dishonest, and untrustworthy. So between that and the email server scandal, how much trouble do you think she's in?
Well, it's a very serious issue. Look, there are people that have been charged with criminal offenses for less. On top of that, it's just highly irresponsible. I mean, look, I'm on the Intelligence Committee. I have access to highly classified information of the same level that she had access to. And we would never put that in an email. Quite frankly, you only look at that in either in a secure environment or on paper in a secure environment. You never email that stuff around. Someone did something very wrong here. She should have known it when she saw it, and her staff should have known better, staff that she supervised. It shows sloppiness, irresponsibility, quite frankly, incompetence, and perhaps even criminality in regards to why there needs to be an investigation. And I'm glad to see that the FBI is taking it more seriously.
You know, I'm sure as a candidate, you probably get tired of answering questions about Donald Trump, but I personally think there is a reason for the Trump tsunami that is in part is the Republican Party's blame. 2014, they ran on the idea that they would stop the president's illegal, unconstitutional executive amnesty. They ended up funding it. They still never repealed and replaced Obamacare or used the power of the purse. Do you think those are the factors that have angered Republican voters so much?
Yeah, beyond it, I would say that, look at this, 3 of the last 4 elections have been change elections. Obviously, in 2008, that was the theme of the Obama campaign. In 2010, when I was elected, it was a massive counter-reaction to what Obama had done. In 2014, once again, the American people voted for change, and nothing has changed. And so people are upset. They see that everything goes up in prices, their paychecks are stagnant, America's getting weaker in the world, and people are angry, and rightfully so. And the question is, what do we do with that anger? My answer is, we need to channel that anger into activism. We can't let anger define us, for example, as Republicans, but we do need to let it motivate us to finally do something. And that's why this election is so important. This is not just about who you like more. We can't afford, we literally as a nation cannot afford 4 to 8 more years of the same stuff. And, you know, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or anyone for that matter, they are all running on the promise not just to continue the Obama policies, but to expand them. We can't afford that as a country. We just can't.
Senator, when I interviewed you the day you got into this race, I asked you about immigration. It has now become a huge issue in this campaign. You said to me that comprehensive immigration reform is impossible because the American people don't trust us. And you said you support securing the border first. Can you tell us specifically what that border security would be? And should anybody who didn't respect our laws and sovereignty be ever granted citizenship?
Well, first of all, let's start with what you asked the question about, and that how to secure the border. We know how to do that. And we've done it in some parts of the border and not enough parts of the border because people are still coming in. It requires more fencing and more building a wall, but it also requires more sensors, more personnel, etc. That alone won't be enough, though, because as I've said repeatedly, 4 out of 10 illegal immigrants entered the country on a visa and they overstayed it. That's why you need a mandatory E-Verify system, so you can't get a job if you're here illegally. That's why you need an entry-exit tracking system. And what I've said repeatedly is until you do that and it's in place and it's actually working, you're not going to be able to do anything else. And anyone who believes that we can move on this in some massive piece of legislation at this point, after 2 illegal actions that you've outlined and the problem that had happened at the border a year ago with minors, they're delusional if they think we can move forward on this with one massive piece of legislation. Now, you asked about the people that are here illegally. Look, I think that if we do that, the first thing that I just outlined, the border security, and it's working, and then we have to do something else first, too, and that is we have to modernize the legal immigration system. We can't continue to allow people to come here based on family connection. It has to be based on merit, on what you can contribute economically. After we've done those 2 things, I think people will be reasonable about what do you do with someone who's not a criminal? If they're a criminal, they have to leave. But if they're not a criminal and they've been here a long time, they have to, they're willing to pay a fine, pay taxes, they get a work permit. And that's all they'll have for a very long time. And that's, and some people say forever. I don't even think you can get to that part of the debate until you've done the other 2 things. Let's see how the other 2 things work first, is what people are saying.
Senator, this Iranian deal, and I know you care a lot about national security, we're going to give the #1 state sponsor of terror $150 billion. They're going to continue to spin their centrifuges. They continue to threaten the United States and to wipe Israel off the map. They'll build more conventional weapons. They made a deal with Russia about a missile defense system. They'll continue to build their ICBMs. How can you stop this horrible deal that will allow this radical rogue Islamic regime nuclear weapons? Is there a path to stop it?
Yeah, my first day as president. Because the president this is not a treaty. It's not binding. It's not even law. The law is sanctions against Iran. The current president is going to use the national security waiver in that law to waive these sanctions. On my first day as president, we're going to reimpose them. I said it earlier today here in South Carolina. People who vote for me will know they are voting to repeal the deal with Iran on day #1. Not just impose the American sanctions that we have in place, increase them, and back it up with a credible threat of military force. In essence, as long as you're spinning centrifuges, we will have crippling sanctions on you. And if you try to build a weapon, we will destroy your program. By the way, one of the most effective weapons against Iran in this fight is to allow America to drill for more oil and to export it. Today we are banned from exporting. We export more oil to Japan, to India, to these other countries that are buying from Iran. That will also hurt the Iranian regime.
Senator, you mentioned 5 months and a week left until the Iowa caucuses on February 1. When do the polls start mattering to you? When do you begin to believe that they're real?
Well, ultimately, we've had elections in this country where the polls have been off. But certainly, as you get closer, you're talking to someone that was 60 points down when I ran for the U.S. Senate, and it really didn't start to matter until later. I think there are information pieces in these polls that are relevant, but ultimately, Americans are, in these early states in particular, have shown a trend over the last few years of making up their mind near the end. And what we're excited about is we think we have a message that really appeals to a lot of Americans, many Republicans. It sells conservatism. It applies the principles of limited government to the challenges of the 21st century. We're very confident in what that's going to mean in January and February of this year.
All right, Senator Marco Rubio, good to see you. We'll see you out on the campaign trail, sir. Thanks for being with us. And coming up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
So it talks about the whole thing I had with the Spanish journalist. If you call him a journalist, I don't. Actually, he's an advocate.
All right, Donald Trump is keeping his feud with Jorge Ramos alive by calling him out on the campaign trail. When we come back, Laura Ingraham, Geraldo Rivera, they're here. They'll debate it. And Hillary Clinton, well, has she been honest about her servers and the scandal? Voters don't seem to think so. Wait till you hear the harsh words that voters polled used to describe her. That's straight ahead.